white male teacher on TikTok wearing a shirt, "When they go low, we go teach," who claims, well, you know what? Let's just listen to this again together so you can get it.
I made a comment on one of Miss April's recent videos about PBIS, in which I stated that PBIS is white supremacy with the hug, and a lot of y'all wanted to know more about that, so here we go. First of all, thank you to Jack Copa, who reminded me that Dina Simmons was the first to coin this term, so thank you, Jack, so much. So if PBIS concerns itself with positive behaviors, we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what are those positive behaviors? And it's things like making sure that you're following directions and making sure that you're sitting quietly and you are in your seat and all these things that come from white culture. The idea of just sitting quiet and being told stuff and taking things in a passive stance is not a thing that's in with many cultures. So if we're positively enforcing these behaviors, we are by extension positively enforcing elements of white culture, which therefore keeps whiteness at the center, which is the definition of white supremacy.
PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and support. PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and support. It is a teaching routine to encourage positive behavior. Now, I'm going to read for you from Wikipedia. Positive behavioral interventions and support is a set of ideas and tools that schools use to improve the behavior of students. PBIS uses evidence and database programs, practices, and strategies to frame behavioral improvement in terms of student growth and academic performance, safety, behavior, and establishing and maintaining positive school culture. PBIS addresses the needs of at-risk students as well as the multi-leveled needs of all students in regards to behavior. This is a white male teacher telling people that if you use positive behavioral interventions and supports, you are engaged in white supremacy with a hug. You are enforcing white supremacy. Now, why? Why? Well, that's the important part here. What this white male teacher wants you to believe is that if you are a passive learner, you sit there and just listen to the teacher and you're not disrupting the class, well, that's white culture. If you're talking over the teacher and you're disrupting the class, that's actually non-white behavior and is perfectly acceptable. You got that? So this, we get to this all hurts my head, by the way, to even get here, but this is where we are. There have been a group of white people who have advanced the idea that that being on time, treating things objectively, not losing your temper, not talking over others, that's all whiteness. And what happens here is this is unfalsifiable nonsense. You and I would say that being respectful in class, saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, sitting there and listening, not disrupting the class, not talking over the teacher, that is called good behavior. What this teacher would have you believe is that is called white supremacy. I would hate for my kid to be in this person's class because what this person is doing is allowing non-white kids to act in ways that are disruptive to the class and let them get away with it if they're not white. Say, well, it's not white culture, and if I make them behave and sit down and be on time, it's white culture. What you're doing is you're causing an entire generation of kids to fail at life. Charlie, I apologize for the phone calls you may be about to get. Several years ago, I filled in for Rush. This was the only moment Bo Snerdley ever had to call me after a program. Oh my gosh. I was discussing people protesting McDonald's demanding a $15 an hour minimum wage. And I said that if you're standing outside your McDonald's on strike demanding $15 an hour instead of what they're paying you, you are someone who has failed at life. The amount of hate I got for that was intense. And you know what? The reason Bo Snerdley was calling me was to tell me that they were getting all sorts of complaints from people for me having said that, and he wanted to encourage me to stick to my guns and not feel like I needed to apologize. And I did not apologize. And to this day, I still say that if you're working for $7.25 an hour and you're on strike demanding $15 an hour, flipping a burger, you failed at life. What I have become more and more mindful of since then, however, is that oftentimes it's because you had a white teacher who set you up to fail at life by treating you like this guy does. A well-meaning progressive academic who believes that you should be able to disrupt class, not be on time, not turn your homework in, not use proper grammar, and not believe in objectivity, and that somehow you can be pushed out into the workforce and be given a job. No, you're going to be the idiot who flips burgers because your white teacher thought it would be white supremacy to instill in you good manners and values. And it's unfalsifiable. If I, as a white guy, say, no, you have to turn your work in on time, show your work, and do good work, somehow I'm the bad guy for wanting you to actually do your freaking job. This only works in academia. I'm sorry, but if you are trying to keep trains running and not colliding with each other, and you decide you don't have to worry about things being on time or documenting your work or any sort of objectivity, you're going to cause a train wreck. Your life will be the first train wreck before the real train wreck happens. That's just the reality of the situation. And yet we've got this idea now that largely white people, and you do need to understand, it is largely white teachers, progressives who believe this stuff. It's like the Smithsonian African American Museum did hang on, let me pull this up. Smithsonian African American Museum whiteness. I'm Googling the terms. Here we go. Whiteness. Yes, they have a whole section on what whiteness is and white privilege and what you believe and what you think and all of this stuff. It's not actual real stuff. I mean, they quote Robin DiAngelo and other people. The thing you've got to recognize here, though, is that a lot of this stuff has been debunked. It's not really real. And yet they've run with this because other people have run with this and they think it must be a legitimate thing. So here's the chart from the National Museum of African American History at the Smithsonian. These are things that are white culture: rugged individualism, a nuclear family structure, emphasis on the scientific method, history, primarily focused on Western history, the Protestant work ethic, religion, status, power, and authority, a future orientation whereby you believe in delayed gratification or planning for the future, and time, following rigid time schedules, and time being viewed as a commodity. This is all a product of white supremacy. It's really not. And the academics who embrace this have been thoroughly discredited, except among the wokes who have gravitated towards this stuff. Now, why have the wokes gravitated towards this stuff? Because what are some of the criticisms? Nuclear family structure. At a time, a lot of people don't have two-parent nuclear household. Therefore, we can say it's white supremacy, so you don't have to follow it, because if you do, you're white supremacist. The emphasis on the scientific method. As more and more kids are failing at Common Core math, who cares about the scientific method anymore? If you're good at it, you must be a white supremacist. If you can build a nuclear rocket, you must be a white supremacist. Pay no attention to the movie about the black ladies at NASA. They clearly were white supremacists ahead of their time if they believed in the scientific method. Absolutely ridiculous nonsense, but this is where we are. The Protestant work ethic. Hard work is the key to success. Work before play. If you didn't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough, those things are products of white supremacy. That's what these people believe. It's not true. It is not true. It is not helpful, and it does not help a society if you embrace these things. but a lot of progressives are. A lot of progressive teachers are doing it. And that's the biggest issue and problem here for you to see, is that when you have academics, particularly white uppity high school teachers, who are teaching this in the classroom, who are implementing this, your kid is at a disadvantage, but so is the black kid that the teacher thinks he's helping. Because that kid needs a stable environment in order to perform, to work, produce, to learn, just like your kid. And when the white teacher tells the black kid, you don't have to behave in a civilized, normal, non-disruptive way, because to do that means you're a white person, what you're actually telling them is, one, they're outside of mainstream culture, because mainstream culture means you don't disrupt. And two, you're telling that kid somehow you are different from everyone else based on your skin color. And three, you're allowing them to develop bad habits that will harm them in the workplace. You, in other words, are setting them up to fail at life, which means you yourself have failed at life by failing to be a decent teacher, getting kids ready for the workforce and for life after school. This goes back to yesterday, y'all. We've put it on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and the like. You need to prepare yourself to run for office. You need to start thinking about it, because these people have got to be held accountable for ruining an entire generation of American kids based on race, of all things. These people are the real racists.